This podcast is about to get unreasonable.
Welcome to It Doesn't Take a Genius.
Ramsey!
Was that really stupid?
I think you should just leave the whole thing in there.
Me moving around and trying to get the zoom.
Oh, yeah. People love to see behind the scenes on how, It Doesn't Take a Genius is made.
Oh, yeah.
We get so many requests for, can you do a behind the scenes episode? Yeah, from our entire audience.
Both of them.
Yeah. All right.
Well,
so
you know why I said it?
I got a feeling there's something that you're going to be unreasonable about.
Hot off the presses, Mike. Hot off the presses. I pre-ordered Unreasonable Hospitality, the Field Guide.
Wait. Wasn't there a book?
There was a book. Oh, you know what? And I don't have the book with me. But
it's
yes,
directly behind you, over your shoulder. Other shoulder.
Really? Oh, my gosh.
Oh, this is getting better all the time.
This is the level of professionalism that Will Guidara really wants. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, this is the excellence.
Here it is. Unreasonable Hospitality. Phenomenal book by Will Guidara.
It'll go great when we write Unreasonable Podcasting.
Or Unreasonable Mediocrity, as I like to call
that
it.
Could be it.
Anyway.
All right.
It's a great book. It's a great book.
He wrote Unreasonable Hospitality.
We're going to do an episode about his story and the original book, but just because this is hot off the presses, we thought we really wanted to share this with people because not a lot of people have maybe read it yet or heard about it, and it is really, really a clever book. So I wanted to share some insights from the book.
Well, the fact that he now has a Unreasonable Hospitality logo.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, look at that thing.
Yeah. UH, baby.
Right.
Yeah,
it's a brand, it's a brand. It's like a cow brand.
Looks like UL certified.
Yeah. So, I guess we'll do the episode on the first book next, but just to give people just a brief synopsis, Will Guidara is a restaurateur, becomes general manager of one of the Danny Meyer restaurants in New York, the guy behind Shake Shack and the book Setting the Table and many fine dining places. And he takes it to number one in many, many, many ways. All the awards that you can receive as a restaurant they earn become really world famous. And so there's a TED Talk that many people have seen where he talks about a hot dog that he serves at his fine dining restaurant. And the whole premise went viral. The book is, I think, a result of that, sort of telling the story of Will Guidara and 11 Madison Park, his restaurant. And it's gone so viral that, for instance, I got the honor to train under Will last summer with a project I did with JLR, Jaguar Land Rover. And like I said, he's got a sequel. And so I wanted to share some of what I've learned from the book, which is the Field Guide, Unreasonable Hospitality, the Field Guide. So do you want me to launch into it, or is there anything you want to sort of set up to make sure I cover, or context you want to give yourself?
No, just the book is fabulous. When I talk to people and they ask me what to read, I'll often recommend Unreasonable Hospitality, the book.
Yeah.
And I tell people, I said, read it twice.
Yep.
Read it once for the leadership and cultural lessons. How do you lead a world-class team? And then read it again if you're in the customer experience world. About what are the things that you do to actually take care of customers?
I think that's spot on. And if you think about things like the service profit chain that you and I have used many, many times, it's always about get your people engaged so that you can get your customers excited. Some version of that in many, many forms. And he's no different. I would say that original book is like half hospitality, half culture. Mm-hmm. and his leadership to get that culture. And this book takes it to the next level, I would say this is 2/3 culture and a third hospitality, which is kind of surprising since it's the hospitality field guide. You think that it's going to be more of that, but let me just describe it physically for those who can't see it. It's got a cardboard cover. It's got one of those elastic straps that keeps it closed as if it's a journal, and that's mainly because it's a journal. It has lots of beautiful graphic design elements, full page artwork and things like that. But it's 300 pages where you are supposed to, for instance, I'm on page 114 here. It says, turn your why into a rousing pre-meal so you share what you've discovered with your team. Well, that's a prompt after you've done some reading on some of Will's meditations. So the book is set up like that. Now, think about it. This is a guy preaching unreasonable hospitality. You knew that there would be... I was just waiting to see what he would do. What's he going to do that makes this book a little extra, right? A little, what do they say in Louisiana, lagniappe? A little lagniappe element. Well, in the back, there is a pocket that says, hospitality is being creative and intentional in the pursuit of relationships, right? So you can see that pocket. In the pocket is a poster. And... but it's not just any poster.
No.
Not just any poster. It's a blank poster. It is the guest journey, the interrogation of the guest journey. This is his version. I learned it from him. There may be other ways of doing this, but it's not so much a process map as these are all the things that happen to a customer as they go through and experience our organization. And so, at 11 Madison Park, his restaurant, I think they had 300 or so touch points. Taking the coat, greeting the guest as they walk up to the host area, and taking their coat. 2 different touch points, right? Because there are 2 different things that might happen in those moments. Just getting as granular as possible. So that's one of the things that you'll learn how to do reading the field guide. But this is set up. The way I've described it as a journal. This is not a field guide for a practitioner like you and me. This is not like a list of all his forms and meeting agendas and check boxes that you would use. This is a journal for a manager who's leading a team and wants to get them to be unreasonable in their hospitality of each other and of the guest. So it's set up like that. I said 2/3 culture, 1/3 customer experience. What you basically have here is there's a section defining hospitality and explaining sort of his principles, and then there's a section on team building by itself, and then there's a big old section on culture, and eventually you get to the customer experience points, but it's a lot of stuff that you and I would want to see, exercises, things that he talks about that you and I would resonate with. He talks about the peak end rule. You and I have taught that countless times. He talks about superpowers. What is your superpower? Identify your superpowers. Identify your people's superpowers. He talks about a villain origin story. Beware your villain origin story. These are all things that I was like, Mark Marshall would love this. He would really buy into this. And he does it with his stories and with his meditations on, what he notices about what works and what doesn't. And, for a guy who I assume is in his 40s, and you would think this could come off so smarmy, like, it's good. Like, it's really good. Like, the meditations are on point. The examples are on point. They're often something that he brings up in the first book, but he takes it a step further. So I'll go over one section here, just as an example to give you a little taste. But That was me talking a lot. I feel like I just need to turn the mic over to you and let you react in any way you want to.
No, no, I like the format, for what I've seen of it, where he poses a question at the top of the page,
Yep.
and then the rest of the page is blank.
Yeah.
And that,
Yeah.
that you should engage and put your thoughts down and make revisions to it and think your way through how does this, how will I implement this? How does this affect me? How would I utilize this going forward? So to me, that's incredibly cool. Reminds me of books like the Seven Habits of Highly Effective People.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
you were supposed to read one chapter, and then there was some questions at the end of the chapter, and the author Stephen Covey said, "Don't go to the next chapter until you've thought this one through."
Yeah.
And
What are you going to do for this habit?
Yeah, and then learn the next one, and then contemplate it and figure out how you're going to use
Yeah.
it in your life. And so I'm a fan of that type of structure in a book.
I think that's really fair, and that's a helpful reframing for me, because what I was kind of hoping, to be honest, was a fifth discipline field guide. And if I've got the example, Peter Senge writes The Fifth Discipline, an amazing book, the art and practice of the learning organization. I mean, just my dad bragged about this book when I was a kid. Just how awesome it was.
That
And
explains a lot.
it sure does, doesn't it? I would not disagree.
That tells us there's a pithy insight into the psyche of Mark Ramsey right there.
Well, anyway,
Other kids were reading Dr. Seuss. No, I'm reading The Fifth Discipline.
well, Dad was just telling me about it.
Oh, okay.
That's all. But so that's the fifth discipline. I'm holding it up for the camera. Here's the fifth discipline field book. Dun dun dun.
Oh.
It's huge. It's just
Twice
a
as
monster.
much book.
And it's written by other people as well as him. And it's tons of things that you could do, exercises that you should try out, and things that people like you and I would do with a team. A manager could too, but it's made to be a field guide in that sense. And I thought that might be what we would get from Will Guidara, and it's partly because I got some of it when I was doing the work with Jaguar Land Rover. I got some of the secret sauce and got to learn from him and some of his people that are mentioned in the book, the first book. But it's not what it is what you just said. It is a journal for you to work on individually and take in use. So it's not for the practitioner. And I would also say another thing that was a little disappointing was that he uses the Reed. Oh, I can't remember the name of it now. The Reed. This is super good radio. Merrill Reed, the Merrill Reed assessment, which is surprisingly similar to DISC, as if DISC had been turned upside down. But it's sold by a different company, and I think people that you and I know who are huge wisdom centers and knowledge centers for DISC would say, it's a little simplified. It would be easy to pigeonhole people, but it does get the ball rolling in terms of self-exploration and getting to know the differences of the people around you. So it works for what he's trying to do. These are minor complaints, honestly, for what he's doing overall with this book. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, give us an example of a question.
Yeah, so he's
something that he asks the reader to do.
Yeah, so he's got a section in his team building portion towards the beginning of the book where he's talking about how to hire, good questions that you could ask. Make sure you turn it over to your people and let them have an authentic, organic conversation and not give them just a bullet list of questions that they have to check the box and ask. But he tells this story about an employee who he mentions in the first book, an employee named Ben who they could have fired him for drinking on the job, and they chose to give him a second chance. And then he drank on the job, and they fired him. And that was what needed to happen. And he makes a point that, Ben then went through recovery and is extremely successful at another restaurant now. Good news for all parties involved. But he brings up a new story in the field guide that is, he says, we'll call him Joe. And Joe just was not a good fit. He hired him to be a maitre d' of one of the restaurants, and he just wasn't a good fit. And so he gives, I'm going to show you this. Does this look somewhat familiar? I don't know if you can.
Right, okay, yeah. Why is Joe struggling?
It's a flow chart, right?
Yep.
And I don't know why the camera won't just focus on the book, but, it says, why is Joe struggling? Joe is struggling because he doesn't care and he's not trying. If that's the case, the next step is fire Joe as fast as you possibly can. But the other option is Joe is trying but is still not succeeding. And then he says, here's the series of questions that I wished I had had at the time. Did Joe need more training? No, he didn't. So next question. Was Joe given too much material to learn too fast? Well, no, not really. Was Joe's learning style different than my teaching style? Did he have learning challenges we needed to accommodate? Well, no, not really. Did you hire Joe into a position he needed more experience for? No, he had the experience. This just wasn't a good fit because it was too fast of a restaurant for him. So the next question is Joe in the right role? And they found a new home inside the organization for Joe that was a great fit. It's the old concept of get him on the bus and figure out the seat later, right? And they figured out the right seat. So, it's a series of questions, really. And does it not remind you a little bit of what we've come to call the performance gears?
Oh, definitely. Right? Yep.
We've got a flow chart. Now, his is not as it's sort of like more intensive in one area and not as broad as what we use. But it's a great little rubric, Oh,
that's fantastic. Yeah. It takes you through, right? And the main point is, the first place you have to look if there's a problem employee is at the manager.
You look at the manager.
Right.
100%.
What did I do or not do that's created this current situation with this employee not performing? And so, here's some questions I can ask myself, were there things that we did or didn't do that contributed to this current level of performance? That's wonderfully reflective and allows the manager to think things through and allows them to come to a conclusion that this is not a bad person, it's just a bad fit for where we currently have them.
And he follows that section up by saying, here's how to fire. These are some things you need to do. It should never be a surprise. I mean, it's things you and I spend a lot of time helping managers think through. It shouldn't be a surprise, although you need to do it quickly. And by the way, why don't you just make some phone calls? Make some calls and try to find the guy a new gig. It sends a signal to your whole team as well as to this person who might be a friend down the road. And he also spends some time talking about how to quit. And saying that there's a real problem with ghosting in our industry. That he says really 2 weeks isn't enough to give somebody who is going to have to fill your role. If you wanted to be really real with your employer, you'd want to work something out to help them fill the role before you left. For whatever reason, 2 weeks is normal in our culture, but most people are just like literally putting a letter on the desk of the manager and walking out the next day. And so he has some suggestions about how to handle that and not to be bitter about it. All of that to say, he gets to, here's to finally answer your question. He gives some thought starters to journal about. Who on your team is ready to step into bigger shoes? Are there training programs you could put in place now so people are better prepared to move up when the time comes? And are there people outside your company you'd be interested in if you had a position to offer? If not, how can you put yourself in a position to identify and get to know them? And that resonated with me because it's a lot of what you and I have ended up doing for some of the organizations we work for. Is we're trying to help them cultivate internally the leadership skills for that next generation of leaders. That's better preparing people to move up, and turns out that's one of Will Guidara's secrets. So, but the book is just filled with that.
Well, and you could take just one question.
Oh yeah.
And that one question might consume the next 6 months.
100%.
of planning and executing and putting it into place, and it could be then you get that up and running. Maybe you move to the next question. So those questions, very simple, but could be wildly intricate to do or execute inside an organization.
Absolutely. And there's one last thing I'll mention, because I know some people, this is what they would buy the book for, is he does have a section on some CX ideas. It's things they do, such as interrogating their customer's journey, finding out all the little things we could be doing better. Can we take a negative to a neutral? Can we take a neutral to a positive? Maybe we'll talk about this next time, but my favorite of his tricks is, when do you bring the check? There's no good time to bring the check, right? You bring it too early, people are like, you're rushing me out of here. You bring it too late, and they're like, hey, we're in a rush here. We've been waiting on the check. So when do you bring the check? And they finally figured out, you bring the check with a bottle of cognac on the house and say, here's the bill, bottle of cognac on the house, drink as much as you want when you're ready to pay the bills here. So they put the customer back in charge of when they want to exit. They've made it clear, we're so happy to have you. We want you to stay as long as you like, and nobody feels rushed anymore. So things like that are going to bubble up if you work through the journal items here. What's the sticky challenge in your organization that you want to deal with. But Will's become so popular that various fans are sending in their stories, either as a customer or as a manager or an employee of what they've done at their organization. So my bookmark just fell out. So let me quickly turn to the correct page here. Here it is. So this is I think I'm going to read the whole thing, even though it's going to seem silly, but it's just a page. So this is Ryan Wagner in Marin County, California. I wanted to share a quick story in celebration of a team member of our team named Lily. Lily is in her first leadership role, but she already is such a bright light. We know she has absolutely tremendous potential. Last night, Lily was taking care of a table with two very special young guests, twins celebrating their 10th birthday. During the appetizer course, one of the guests of honor, young Charlotte, lost a tooth. Of course, Charlotte wanted to keep the tooth so she could leave it for the tooth fairy later that night, so she put it on her plate for safekeeping. But over the course of the meal, the tooth was mistakenly discarded into the trash. Problem. Lily took it upon herself to sort through the garbage, searching where others dare not go. She sorted through garbage can after garbage can, but wasn't able to find the tooth. But she didn't let that be the end of the story. She wrote a handwritten, signed, and witnessed note that Charlotte could use as documentation with the tooth fairy, good enough to hold up as legal proof in quote-unquote tooth fairy court. Tears of sadness at the table turned to tears of joy. In an industry where the easy button would have been just to buy a round of desserts or give a gift card, Lily did what we all strive to do. She was intuitive, adaptable, and owned an incredible outcome. So, what a fun story, right? This is somebody being unreasonable, going through garbage and then coming up with a fictitious note to give the tooth fairy court. Save the day, right? And I think that's really cool, but what I love about it is that Will Guidara writes, not only did Lily care enough about that little girl to sort through the trash for her lost tooth, already more than many people would have done, but when that effort didn't work, she didn't quit. She used her amazing creativity to make it right. I'd like to thank Ryan for being the kind of manager who lifts up people like Lily. And Lily, thanks to you for being awesome. So the book is, there's a whole, I don't know if you can see it, but all the dark pages are story after story after story that have been submitted to Will of things that happened in service, in hospitality, to just be, a home run, some new idea, something that would, honestly, it's worth the price of admission alone. It's gold like that, stories like that of things that people have come up with. So, yeah, 3 Michelin stars or 4 New York Times stars, whichever you want to go with. Great book. Really impressed.
Well, it sounds amazing. Yeah, you've got some great stories, great leadership, great culture, and then specific examples from people who've been inspired by and who were probably already out doing many of the unreasonable hospitality behaviors.
That's right.
Very cool.
So that's my show and tell for the day. We'll probably do a follow-up episode talking more broadly about the Will Guidara story, just to put it in context and give some thoughts on what that means about culture and leadership. But we hot off the presses, our review is out.
Oh yeah. Well, I think, weren't you on a list? Didn't you get an early copy?
I definitely pre-ordered. It showed up the day of release, so yeah, I guess that was the Amazon deal.
Nice.
Happy about that.
Right.
Yeah.
It must be the mock turtleneck and the jacket that's working for you.
No comment.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate all the name dropping. You and Will Guidara hanging out. Jaguar. That was very nice. But yeah, excellent book. Definitely one that, I could see it lasting somebody a year. Right, taking it at least a year to get through it in a thoughtful, reflective way.
100%. It is, and again, it's made for an individual to buy and do that with. So, couldn't recommend it enough.
Very cool. And speaking of thoughtful and reflective,
true.
Let's turn it over to our hype man, our announcer. Take us out, Mr. Wolf.
And that, I guess, is that. It doesn't take a genius. No rights reserved, nothing trademarked, copyrighted, or even original. Feel free to give it to anyone, anytime, using any and all media formats. Warning, Mark and Mike may or may not make another one. I'm your announcer, and I did not get paid a nickel to do this. They won't even let me tell you my name. So, until next time, if there is a next time, stay safe. Be well.
That's good enough.